Welcome to Book Talks, where stories aren't just read, they're understood. Today, the book under discussion is Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And, we've all had those mornings
Absolutely.
where you wake up feeling completely alienated or just overwhelmed, maybe dreading the workday so much that your own body feels kind of heavy and unfamiliar.
Right, that classic burnout feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Kafka takes that really universal feeling of burnout and turns it into a literal nightmare. I imagine
Okay.
you open your eyes and your physical form is fundamentally alien to you.
Yeah, and the premise is deeply unsettling, mostly because it skips the origin story entirely.
Right, no explanation.
None. A traveling salesman, Gregor Samsa, just wakes up from troubled dreams to find himself transformed into a horrible vermin.
It's so jarring.
It is. He's lying on this armor-like back, and he looks down to see a brown, domed belly and these pitifully thin legs just waving helplessly in the air.
Ugh, the visual is so creepy. But to be clear for everyone listening, our mission in this deep dive isn't really to diagnose the biological mutation, right?
No, not at all. We're looking past the physical shock value. Our goal today is to uncover something much darker, which is the subtle, really devastating psychological metamorphosis of his entire family.
Which is exactly why we need to start by looking at chapter 1, right in the bedroom.
Yeah, the absurdity of that first morning.
Because the physical reality of the bug is grotesque, but his psychological reality is what's truly bizarre. I mean, anyone else would wake up with a hard shell and dozens of flailing legs and just start screaming.
Literally.
But Gregor's very first thought, he basically just thinks, what a strenuous career it is that I've chosen.
It's almost funny in a really grim way. It immediately establishes his profound alienation.
Yeah.
He isn't connected to his body at all. He's entirely defined by his economic output.
Just a worker.
Exactly. And Kafka uses those specific details of his job, the grueling travel, the bad food, the superficial relationships, to show a man who is, already living like a machine.
Even his boss sounds awful.
Oh, the boss who literally sits high up on a desk and forces employees to come uncomfortably close just because he's hard of hearing.
So demeaning.
Very.
Yeah.
Gregor is trapped in an environment designed to diminish him, and he's only doing it to pay off his parents' massive debt.
I've always found the alarm clock scene to be like the ultimate portrait of toxic hustle culture.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. He's lying there, an actual insect, and he's just watching the clock.
Yeah.
It hits 6:30, then 6:45, and he's spiraling into a panic about missing his train.
Just fixated on the schedule.
It was like waking up deathly ill, but your only thought is, oh no, I still need to send that quarterly report email.
Mm-hmm.
He is literally losing his humanity, but he's more terrified of HR.
Yeah, and that panic over the ticking clock really speaks to how deeply ingrained his subjugation is. I mean, he rationalizes his condition as a severe cold,
A cold.
right, like an occupational hazard.
Hmm.
He refuses to process his physical reality because his economic reality just demands total submission. And, well, when the firm inevitably sends the chief clerk to his flat to investigate why he missed the 5:02 a.m. train, the collision of those two realities is pretty catastrophic.
Let me push back on Gregor's internal logic here, though. Because if he knows he has turned into a giant bug, why does he still try to defend his work ethic through the locked door?
It is baffling, isn't it?
Like he opens his mouth to speak to the clerk, and all that comes out is this uncontrollable animal squeak. Surely he has to realize at that moment that his career as a salesman is over.
You would assume that, yeah. But denial is an incredibly powerful mechanism.
Oh,
Gregor genuinely believes he is speaking clearly. The loss of his human voice is the ultimate isolation, yet he just clings to the illusion of his role.
so he still thinks he's just talking normally.
Exactly. And when he finally uses his strong new jaws to turn the key in the lock,
Oh God, that part.
dripping that grotesque brown fluid all over the metal, it's this desperate, violent attempt to perform a civilized duty using a monstrous anatomy.
And the visual of that door swinging open is just pure chaos.
Utter panic.
The mother faints dead away right into her skirts. And the chief clerk, the guy who just minutes ago was lecturing Gregor about his unsatisfactory turnover, he claps a hand over his mouth and just flees down the stairs.
Get out of there.
But the father's reaction is what always strikes me as the real inciting incident for the family's dark trajectory.
Yes, because the father doesn't react with paternal concern or even fearful confusion, he reacts with immediate, violent
He
hostility.
gets so aggressive.
Stamps his feet. He literally hisses like a wild man.
Misses.
Yeah. And then he grabs the clerk's abandoned walking stick and a rolled-up newspaper to physically drive Gregor back into his room.
And he doesn't even bother to open the second door to give Gregor enough space to fit his broad new bug body through.
No, he just forces him.
He just shoves him from behind, violently scraping Gregor's flank and leaving him bleeding on the floor. It's entirely punitive.
It is punitive,
Yeah.
because in the father's eyes, Gregor the insect is no longer Gregor the provider. The moment the economic utility vanishes, the son becomes a threat that has to be contained.
That's so grim.
It is. And this dynamic completely flips the family structure, which moves us right from the chaotic initial shock into the grinding routine of Chapter 2.
Right, where the sole breadwinner is now a literal parasite.
Exactly.
And the shift in his physical nature becomes undeniable here. We all remember the scene where his sister, Greet, brings him his favorite sweetened milk with bread.
Such a human comfort food.
Yeah, but he takes one taste and is entirely repulsed. He eventually realizes he only craves old half-rotten vegetables and hardened cheese.
His biology is totally rewriting itself.
But while his body is changing, I think the most heartbreaking shift is his changing understanding of his family, especially that financial revelation he overhears through the wall.
Oh, the secret savings.
Yes.
Listening at the door, Gregor learns that his father actually retained a small amount of money from his collapsed business 5 years prior.
Which is shocking enough.
But furthermore, the father has been quietly hoarding a portion of the earnings Gregor brought home every month, just locking it away in a cash box.
Wait, I really struggle to find any sympathy for the family after this.
It's hard to defend, for sure.
Because, Gregor's been working himself to the bone. He sacrificed his youth, fully believing his family is entirely destitute, and his father had a secret safety net all along.
Right under his nose.
Doesn't that reframe Gregor's entire sacrifice? Kind of reveals that he was a victim of their parasitism long before he ever sprouted antennas.
It absolutely forces a complete reevaluation of the family's morality. Gregor was treated as an instrument of capital even when he was human.
Wow.
The father allowed his own son to suffer the exhaustion of life on the road, bearing that crushing guilt of the family's supposed poverty, all just to maintain a comfortable surplus.
That is so deeply manipulative.
And the real tragedy is that Gregor, who is so conditioned to serve, he doesn't even feel anger when he hears this.
He doesn't.
No, he actually feels a strange pride that he provided so well for them.
That conditioning is so deep, it's practically pathological.
He really is.
And we see that power dynamic shift dramatically between Greet and the mother during the battle for Gregor's room, right?
Yeah.
Greet becomes his primary caretaker.
She steps into that role, yeah.
She sees him crawling on the walls and ceiling to entertain himself, so she decides to move his heavy furniture out of the room to give him space.
Right, which prompts the mother's fierce resistance. And her reaction is this fascinating psychological defense.
How so?
While the mother argues that removing his human possessions is tantamount to giving up all hope of his recovery, she wants the room exactly as he left it.
That makes sense for a grieving mother.
It does. But we also have to question Greet's motives here. Is clearing the room an act of deep empathy for her brother's new physical needs?
Or is it an assertion of her new dominance over his space and identity?
Exactly.
I really lean toward dominance on that one. Greet seems to relish being the so-called expert on the bug.
She definitely takes ownership of him.
But for Gregor, hearing his mother's voice snaps him out of his insect instincts. He realizes he doesn't want his room turned into an empty, echoing cave.
He wants to hold on to his human past.
So he scurries up the wall and clings frantically to the glass of a framed magazine cutout of a lady in a fur hat and boa.
It's this desperate, almost pathetic attempt to physically cover and protect a fragment of human artifice.
And the result, inevitably, is a total disaster.
Complete disaster. The mother walks in, sees this massive brown insect sprawled over the wallpaper, and faints on the sofa.
Naturally.
Gregor yells at him, which is the first time she addresses him directly since the transformation, by the way. And in the ensuing panic to get smelling salts, Gregor is shut out of his room.
Which perfectly sets up the confrontation with the father, who just returns home from his new job. And wow, the description of the father here is staggering.
It's a total reversal.
Yeah, because Gregor remembers this tired, sluggish man entombed in his bed in a nightgown, a guy who needed a walking stick just to take a slow stroll.
Barely able to function.
Right. But the man who walks into the flat now, he is standing completely straight, eyes alert, wearing a tightly fitted blue banking uniform with gold buttons.
The father has undergone his own metamorphosis.
That's a great point.
By donning that uniform, he reclaims his patriarchal authority. He is no longer the dependent invalid. He is the enforcer.
And he fundamentally misreads the situation, doesn't he?
Totally. He assumes Gregor has violently attacked the mother.
The chase scene around the living room that follows is just bizarre and honestly terrifying. Gregor's doing these frantic, tiny leg movements just to keep up with his father's long strides.
It's a nightmare sequence.
And then the father starts bombarding him with small red apples from a fruit bowl.
Which is such a striking detail. We have to look at the symbolism of those apples.
Oh, interesting.
The father is weaponizing the very symbols of domesticity and sustenance. It heavily evokes the biblical fall from grace.
Oh, wow. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, Gregor is being violently cast out of the family's protection. The father just rains them down until one lodges deeply and painfully right into Gregor's back.
He's pinned to the floor in agony, just watching his mother run to his father, her skirt sliding off, begging for Gregor's life.
It is a brutal, brutal image.
It really is. And that lodged apple serves as the anchor point for Chapter 3. That apple rots in his flesh for over a month.
A literal open wound.
Yeah, perfectly mirroring the rotting affection and patience of his family.
Exactly. And the physical decay of Gregor in Chapter 3 is juxtaposed against the forced economic mobilization of the family.
The complacency is totally over.
Completely. The father refuses to even take off his bank uniform, sleeping in his chair.
Which is so weird.
It grows stained and shabby, becoming a sort of exoskeleton itself, like a rigid shell of authority and labor that he refuses to shed.
The whole family really hardens. I mean, the mother is up late sewing fancy underwear for a fashion shop.
Working constantly.
And Greet, the delicate teenager, takes a job as a salesgirl and studies shorthand and French late into the night.
They're pushing themselves to the limit.
Because they're all utterly exhausted, Gregor is just abandoned.
His room, which was once a sanctuary of his human life, devolves into a literal dumping ground.
So sad.
And to make ends meet, the family rents a room to 3 bearded, pedantic gentlemen. Because these boarders demand pristine conditions, all the household clutter, along with the kitchen dustbins, just gets tossed into Gregor's room.
And they hire this thick-boned charwoman who isn't intimidated by Gregor in the slightest.
Not even a little bit.
She just opens his door and hurls insults at him, calling him an old dung beetle. She even threatens him with a chair.
She treats him like actual garbage.
And Gregor is just wasting away in the dark, covered in dust, hair, and old food scraps.
Which sets the stage for the climax of the narrative, really. The musical performance.
Right.
The 3 boarders are eating in the living room, and Greg begins to play the violin in the kitchen.
I feel like this scene contains the most tragic irony of the entire text.
Oh, so?
Well, Gregor, who is covered in filth, is drawn out of his dark room by the music. And he is having a profoundly transcendent emotional reaction.
True.
He literally dreams of dragging Greet into his room to tell her about his secret plan to pay for her to go to the conservatory. It is the most vividly human he has felt since the transformation.
It's beautiful, but also compare Gregor's internal state with the external behavior of the boarders.
Right, the so-called normal humans.
The supposedly civilized human boarders are quickly bored by the music. They retreat to the window, blowing cigar smoke, clearly annoyed.
Just totally unappreciative.
But Gregor, the insect, is captivated. Kafka asks us this amazing question. Was he an animal if music could captivate him so?
Wow.
The tragedy is that his internal humanity is entirely invisible to a world that only values external conformity and economic function.
And of course, the middle boarder spots him, points a finger, and the fragile arrangement just shatters.
It all falls apart.
The boarders immediately give notice and refuse to pay rent. And this specific financial threat triggers the ultimate betrayal from Greet.
Yes. Greet, the sister who once brought him milk and cleared his room, is the one who finally articulates the family's true desire.
Which is chilling.
She tells her father, it's gotta go. And she employs this devastating rationalization to assuage their guilt.
What did she say?
She argues that they must discard the idea that the creature is Gregor. Her logic is that if it were truly Gregor, he would have recognized that humans cannot live with such an animal, and he would have left of his own accord.
That is terrifying mental gymnastics.
Truly.
She strips away his identity, calling him it, entirely just to justify his execution. And Gregor, who is listening from the floor, accepts this.
He agrees with her.
He realizes he is an unbearable burden. With immense physical pain, he slowly turns around and retreats to his room. And the second he crosses the threshold, Greet slams the door, bolts it, and yells, "At last!"
That slam door is the final severance.
It's so harsh.
It is. Yet in the dark, Gregor feels a strange peace. The pain of the rotting apple fades. He thinks of his family with deep emotion and love, entirely agreeing with his sister that he must disappear.
Wow.
At 3 in the morning, his head sinks to the floor, and his last breath flows weakly from his nostrils.
And the aftermath the next morning is almost more chilling than the death itself.
The family's reaction.
Yeah. The charwoman pokes his dried, flat corpse with her broom and announces that it's stone dead. And the family doesn't mourn at all.
Called a single tear.
There is zero grief for the son who sacrificed his youth for their debts. Mr. Samsa actually says, "Let's give thanks to God."
The speed of their emotional recovery is just breathtaking. They immediately kick the boarders out, reasserting control over their space.
They don't miss a beat.
They write letters of excuse to their employers, and then they leave the flat together for the first time in months. They take this sun-filled tram ride out to the country.
It is such a bright, aggressively optimistic ending for a story about a man dying alone in the dark, covered in garbage.
It's pure Kafka.
Sitting on the tram, the parents just observe Greet.
Huh.
They notice she has blossomed into a beautiful, well-built young woman. And in silent agreement, they decide it is time to find her a husband.
Which brings us to the core synthesis of our deep dive today. The title is Metamorphosis.
Right.
For over a century, readers have focused on the man who turned into a bug. But the profound, lasting metamorphosis really belongs to the family.
The family.
Yeah. They transformed from sluggish, helpless dependents into strong, self-sufficient, and ultimately ruthless survivors. Gregor's sacrifice, both his life as a salesman and his death as an insect, was just the necessary fuel for the family's rebirth.
So for you listening, think about the roles you play in your own life right now, at work, in your relationships, within your own family.
It's an uncomfortable mirror.
Are you valued for your inherent humanity, your soul, your capacity to be moved by music? Or are you valued simply for the function you serve and the resources you provide?
Kafka really forces us to confront the brutal realities of economic utility within our most intimate relationships.
He does.
When you can no longer produce, when your presence demands care rather than providing capital, how quickly does the perception of your humanity dissolve?
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought. We often look at that sunny tram ride and think the tragedy ended with Gregor's death.
Right.
But what if the real tragedy is just beginning? By dying and removing the burden, Gregor essentially handed the curse of the worker bug directly to his sister.
Oh, that's a brilliant point.
As the parents sit there, sizing up her beautiful, well-built body for marriage, hasn't she just become the family's new commodity to trade?
She's the next asset.
Exactly. The bug is dead, but the machine that grinds up the youth to feed the old is still running perfectly. Next time you wake up dreading the daily grind, ask yourself, who is benefiting from your exhaustion, and what would happen if you simply stopped?